It all began years ago when Emma, Jake, and I were inseparable. We met in high school, three misfits who bonded over late-night study sessions, shared secrets, and dreams that seemed too big for our small town. Emma was my best friend, the sister I never had, and Jake was her protective older brother, always looking out for us both. They were close, but there was an unspoken distance between them, as siblings often have. Jake and I clicked instantly. He had this way of making me laugh even on my worst days, and he listened without judgment when I needed someone to talk to. Over time, what started as friendship grew into something deeper. By the time we graduated, it felt natural for Jake and me to start dating. Emma supported us wholeheartedly, or so I thought. Our relationship blossomed quickly. Within 2 years, we were engaged, planning a life together filled with laughter, adventure, and love. Everyone said we were perfect for each other, and I believed them. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. Cracks neither of us saw coming. The trouble started subtly. At first, it was little things. Emma canceling plans at the last minute, avoiding conversations about Jake and me, or seeming distant during family gatherings. I chalked it up to stress from work or personal issues she hadn't told me about. After all, Emma was busy building her career as a graphic designer, and I knew how demanding deadlines could be. But then came the wedding preparations. As the date approached, Emma became increasingly withdrawn. She stopped attending fittings and meetings, citing too much work or family emergencies. One day, during a bridal shower rehearsal, she snapped at me for no apparent reason. "What's wrong?" I asked gently after everyone else had left. "Nothing," she muttered, avoiding my gaze. I don't know if I can do this anymore." "Do what?" I pressed, confused. "This." She gestured vaguely. "All of it. Your wedding, your happiness, everything." Her words stung, though I couldn't understand why. "Emma, what are you talking about? Of course, you can be happy for me. You're my best friend." She sighed heavily, her eyes filling with tears. "That's exactly the problem," she whispered before walking away. I didn't know it then, but those words would haunt me for months to come. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be a joyous occasion, a celebration of our upcoming marriage surrounded by loved ones. Instead, it turned into a nightmare I'll never forget. We gathered at a cozy restaurant downtown, surrounded by family and friends. Toasts were made, laughter echoed through the room, and everything seemed perfect until Emma stood up. Her face was pale, her hands trembling as she gripped the edge of the table. "I'm sorry," she began, her voice cracking, "but I can't keep pretending anymore. Lily, I have to tell you something." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to her, including mine. My heart raced as I waited for her to continue. "I've loved Jake for years," she blurted out, tears streaming down her face. "Longer than you've known him. And seeing the two of you together, it kills me." For a moment, no one spoke. Then, chaos erupted. Gasps filled the air, whispers broke out, and Jake looked like he'd been punched in the gut. "Emma, what are you saying?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "This isn't funny. It's true," she insisted, her voice breaking. "I've tried to push these feelings aside, to be happy for you. But I can't. Not anymore." Jake finally found his voice. "Lily, it's not what you think," he said, standing beside me. "I swear, nothing happened between us. Emma and I talked about this once years ago, and I told her I only cared about you. That hasn't changed, but the damage was done." Doubt crept into my mind, planting seeds of uncertainty that threatened to destroy everything I held dear. After the rehearsal dinner, I barely slept. My mind raced with questions. Could I believe Jake? Had he really stayed faithful to me? Or had he and Emma crossed lines they shouldn't have? And what about Emma? How could my best friend betray me like this? By morning, I'd made my decision. I called Jake and ended things. "I need space," I told him, my voice trembling. "I can't trust either of you right now." He begged me to reconsider, promising again that nothing had happened. But I couldn't listen. The pain was too raw, the betrayal too deep. Over the next few weeks, I avoided Emma entirely. Every text, every call went unanswered. I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself from the turmoil inside me. Meanwhile, rumors spread throughout our circle of friends. Some sided with me, others with Emma, and a few tried to play peacemaker. None of it helped. One evening, as I sat alone in my apartment, staring blankly at the wall, there was a knock at the door. When I opened it, Emma stood there, looking smaller and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. "Lily, please," she said, her voice pleading. "Let me explain." Reluctantly, I let her in. We sat across from each other, on the couch, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. "I messed up," Emma admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I should have told you sooner, instead of letting it fester until it exploded like this." "Then tell me now," I said, my voice cold. "Everything." She took a deep breath. "I fell for Jake when we were teenagers. Back then, he was just my brother, but as we grew older, I started seeing him differently. By the time you two started dating, I already knew it was wrong to feel this way. So I buried it, convinced myself I could handle it. But you couldn't," I finished for her. "No," she agreed. "Every time I saw the two of you together, it tore me apart. I hated myself for feeling this way, but I couldn't stop. And then one night, I confessed to Jake. He told me straight away that he loved you, that I was crossing a line I shouldn't. We agreed never to speak of it again. And yet here we are," I said bitterly. "I know," she replied, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Lily, for keeping this from you, for ruining your relationship, for destroying our friendship. If you can't forgive me, I'll understand. But please, let me try to make it right." Forgiving Emma wasn't easy. It took months of therapy, long conversations, and plenty of soul-searching. During that time, I also worked on rebuilding my relationship with Jake. Though he swore nothing had happened between him and Emma, I needed proof, not just of his innocence, but of his commitment to me. Eventually, we reached a point where trust could begin to grow again. Emma and I reconnected slowly, learning to navigate our new dynamic as friends who had faced unimaginable challenges. Jake and I decided to take things slow, focusing on communication and honesty. Life didn't return to normal overnight. Scars remained, reminders of the pain we'd caused each other. But through it all, we discovered that love, forgiveness, and understanding could heal even the deepest wounds. Years later, as I stood beside Emma at her own wedding, to someone else entirely, I realized how far we'd come. Our friendship wasn't the same as it once was, but it was stronger, built on truths rather than secrets. And for that, I was grateful. Because sometimes the hardest lessons teach us the greatest truths. Love isn't just about passion. It's about trust, respect, and resilience. And when those elements align, anything is possible.